Dilip, good seeing you again. Always a pleasure to speak on numbers and about the future of Safaricom. But just to kick us off, you guys have recorded very solid numbers. Bottom line, top line, revenue at a four. The growth was probably the highest in 4 years across most of the segment. In your view, what will you say was the key driver of the performance?
If I have to summarize what worked for us for the results that we have released, I'll start with the strategy. You know, you see the numbers, but then there are strategy behind those numbers. So in 2020, actually FY25 was the last year of our strategy. And Peter did show a slide. How did we execute? I think our strategy was very clear. Some outstanding execution on the part of the team who worked on the strategy. And along the way, the business was funded. We looked for new opportunities, newer areas of growth, adjacency in the business that we do. I think in all those areas, we have executed well. At the foundation of all of this is the customers at the core of everything that you do and the society that we serve. I think our purpose of transforming lives and serving unserved or underserved in various segments of the services and propositions that we have is what pays us well. So if you do well in serving your customers, then ultimately it flows to your top line as well as in the bottom line. I strongly believe in that.
Interesting. There's a famous quote, I think it's by Jeff Bezos, saying, analysts and people in the market usually look at numbers quarter on quarter, but probably those numbers were planned 5 years down the line. But for you, what was the standout kind of performance or sector, from the earnings?
M-Pesa has been the growth driver for the longest time. Even in FY25, it contributed 60% of incremental revenue came from M-Pesa. Yeah. So if you say 3 billion group revenue and close to 3 billion even Kenya revenue close to about 381 billion shilling, right? 44% of that is about 161 billion is M-Pesa. So, and that's growing 15%. Last year it grew 19%. If you see the entire 5-year period, M-Pesa has probably been the biggest growth driver incrementally. Having said that, the other two businesses, both of the connectivity businesses, it is quite expected that the voice messaging will be replaced by mobile data. You see mobile data accelerating, but it's not that we are not growing on voice and messaging. We have grown on voice and messaging as well. I would say it's a all-round growth driven by customer growth, driven by ARPU growth, but within that probably what stands out in terms of the performance is M-Pesa. So that's clearly is visible in the top line.
Interesting. I think for me, the standout performance from a percentage standpoint was the wealth management business. 400% AUM growth, probably nearly 200% growth in numbers. And from the guidance, you guys mentioned that you're looking at, because these are products that were launched probably less than 6 months ago. From a long-term perspective, how do you see, the future of those new products on financial services? Do you see those as being big contributors from a financial services perspective?
I've been told, I'm not sure, I need to check, that in 6 months we are already in the top 15 of the asset managers in the country. So that speaks of the volume that we can grow. So future, we believe, is very good in this area. I think the way to look at it is all the adjacency in the financial services M-Pesa that we are introducing. Okay, we need to look at them individually, but also the collective impact that it has on the customers, the way they experience our services, the way they engage with us. So I think wealth management is, you can say, is power to you, is empowering to a customer to be able to say, wealth management is not the prerogative only for the wealthy people, right? We are democratizing wealth. That's, to my mind, is the biggest shift. And that allows even customer with 100 shilling, as low as 100 shilling, can invest. Yeah. So I think that to me is more empowering and more satisfying, because you are now giving power to customers to be able to do things that they could not do before. With 3 clicks, you can literally move money in and out of your wallet and see on a daily basis how much interest you're earning. That's quite empowering in my view. I think I would consider this as it's a huge opportunity, but also in the way to build customer loyalty. You don't see just one aspect of a business. You see everything together and then see this one also has an impact on the others. So it's an ecosystem that you develop along the way. You will not stop here. We will be also launching newer products in future or innovative solutions that we give in. But in the way to make sure that customer is able to do everything they can do within our ecosystem.
Interesting. Speaking from a regional standpoint and from a global standpoint, Ethiopia is becoming a big contributor, also in the long run, also to Safaricom's group revenues. Maybe first to start with, given what's happening across the world, the geopolitical tensions, the new administration in the US, and you've seen all, the changes, the disruptions. Do you see that affecting, Safaricom as a group standpoint? And the reason I'm asking that is that, Safaricom, with regards to Ethiopia unit, DFC, which is one of the DFIs, is a huge kind of, debt investor into the Ethiopian business. In any way, do you see an impact on what's happening across the world impacting your business?
First of all, one small correction. DFC did not invest. It's IFC who has invested.
Okay.
Yeah. So IFC have invested. They put in an equity. They're about 7% equity owners, and also have put in $100 million of debt. So it's IFC. So the way to look at the expansion and the newer areas that you haven't done before is always to do a risk assessment, right? So no business is risk-free. I mean, if it is risk-free, then everybody would be there, right? So obviously when you are going into a market which is opening up for the first time, you assess those risks. So when we went to Ethiopia, we assessed those risks, and some of those, I would say, the risk has actually come true. One of them is the currency reforms, which has happened last year, which resulted into a depreciation of ETB, right? Now, you are in an environment where I would say is better than we were in before. With the macroeconomic reforms the government has announced, and they are on course. Along the way, I think those geopolitical issues, and I said this in another forum, those of you who have lived longer actually don't have to live longer even to be able to see what happened in 2020 when COVID came in, right? So there is always something happening in the world for all businesses to be able to see what to expect. There will be something coming up next. So you do risk mitigation, you see what best, and I think those are also points of innovation, points of things that you have not thought about before, how you're able to do that now. I would see that way. No business is risk-free. You have to take risk, but you mitigate risk through your intervention in a way that can still ensure that that money is secured, and shareholder money you can give the adequate return that you promised to your shareholders.
Interesting. Just to wrap this off, you mentioned that over the period under review, the last 1 year, there was an increase of cash injection, though, of about 410 million USD.
That's correct.
And you had mentioned that that was contributed by Safaricom itself and your partners. Can you give just an overview around, contribution for each party? Was it debt? I think it was equity, if I'm not wrong. And was it as per the structure of shareholding, or what was the structure of that kind of investment? And then the other bit is with regards to Ethiopia and Safaricom. You had mentioned around it's in addition to the cash injection, what hit did you guys get from the currency?
So I'll cover it in two parts.
Yeah.
First, on the cash injection, you're right. The total funding to Ethiopia from all shareholders put together increased from $1.86 billion to $2.27 billion, that's what the number I think you spoken about of $410 million. So the way it works is contribution is always in proportion to the shareholding. That's why in my speech I mentioned about is broadly we are about 51.7% shareholder in that company, so which you have contributed about half of that. But there are two parts to it. One is the new equity, and there is also there are vendor payables that we have where we have negotiated a longer period of credit. And those, when they become payable, we pay them, but that also is considered as an equity contribution. That was about $107 million. So we have contributed in the proportion of our shareholding. And if you 410 million, you broadly we can say we have paid about $200 million to the investment.
Ideally, that's contribution from your cash flow.
That's contribution from a cash flow reflected in the Kenya business. As you have seen, our cash flow very strong. Despite all of this, our free cash flow went up by 18% year over year. Right. Now coming to the second part of your question, which is on the currency half year of this financial year. So when you release our results, we have actually quantified the impact that we have absorbed in the half year financials was 33 billion Kenya shilling, at a net income level. Currency depreciated further, but at a much lower pace. The day the reforms was announced, I think in a very short period of time, currency depreciated over 100%. But the rate of depreciation was much lower. So we have taken a total hit of 39 billion Kenya shilling in the financials that we have seen. 33 billion in the half year and about 6 billion in the second half of the year.
Okay. Good. Thanks, Dilip, for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good sharing the insights, and look forward to discussing, the next.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I appreciate it.